Hello everybody, it's Kate, the West Coast Paper Crafter. If you are tuning in live, it is November 24th, Monday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific time. For those of you who don't know me, I am a part-time Stampin' Up! Demonstrator on Vancouver Island in Canada, and tonight I'm going to be showing you how to make a very pretty and easy card with a built-in gift holder using the branching out bundle. All right, let's get started. I'm going to flip my camera around. Hello, Kathy, I see you. All right, flipping the camera around. So I'm just going to go through the measurements, and there's going to be just a little bit of scoring. So you're going to need your scoring tool or your paper trimmer, whatever you use to score. Hello, Kathleen. All right, so like I said, I'm using the branching out stamp set and the dies. And measurements. I have got a piece of old olive. This is 4 1/4 by 11. And I've got 2 pieces of the Elegant Pine Snowflakes DSP. The bigger piece is 4 1/8 by 3 5/8, and the smaller piece is 4 1/8 by 1 5/8. So usually I like to do layers, but I'm not going to do that tonight, just the designer series paper. Hello, Marion. Hello, Kate and Leanne. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to try not to smudge tonight, Leanne, but we'll see what happens. For the inside, basic white, 4 1/8 by 3 5/8. Now, if you're catching this on a replay on YouTube, the measurements will be in the description of the video. And then 2 pieces of basic white that I cut out with the branching out frames dies. This, I used the second largest die to cut out this one, and then the third largest die for the second one. All right, let's get going. There's a lot of stamping with this card, which is probably why I really like the branching out stamp set so much. There's just, so much stamping to put it all together. Hello, Teresa. Hello, Donna. All right. So I've already taken the cutting blade out of my paper trimmer because today really feels like a Monday. Really feels like a Monday, and I am tired, and I am having an early night once this slide is done. I don't think I'm going to be awake for very much longer. It's just, yeah, long day. Okay, so our cardstock, that's 4 1/4 by 11. We're going to score it on the 11-inch side. I've written the measurements down here if you want to take a quick screenshot or write them down. So the first score on the long side is 1 3/4. I gotta get my glasses on so I don't mess this up. Hello, Sharon. All right, score 1 3/4. Second score line, 7 1/4. So if you have the Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, it's really handy because you can cut and score, and it's got this little extending arm for anything that's a little bit longer than 6 inches. All right, so now I'm scoring at 7 1/4. All right, so we've scored it twice, 1 3/4 and 7 1/4. That is all we need our scoring tool for. Now we're just going to fold on our score lines. So the 1 3/4 score line, I'm going to fold it in towards the inside of the card, and same with the 7 1/4. So this is actually going to be the top of our card, and this is going to be our gift card holder. I had to think about that. See what I'm talking about? It's been a really, really long Monday. Okay, I can do it. Don't worry. So this piece of white, we're going to glue that down right on the inside. Then we're going to glue this little flap down, make the gift card holder. We'll do some stamping. And we are going to do a little bit of stamping on the inside layer and also the smallest frame die cut. All right, so I want to make sure directionally that I am going to do a little bit of stamping on the long side, which is 4 1/8. That's going to fit right under that 7 1/4 inch score line. Okay, so I know it's this direction. I'm going to stamp a little bit just across the top left corner, and then, well, you'll see. You'll see. I'm talking too much already. So I have got lots, lots of stamps, lots of colors for this. I'm starting with the branch, and I'm going to stamp that in Early Espresso, trying desperately to keep my fingers out of my ink pad because, you know, it's my favorite thing to do, clearly, is get my fingers in my ink pad. All right, so I'm just going to stamp up a little bit of my branch, and I'm going to add that to the top left corner of my inside piece, and then move that out of the way. Then I'm going to stamp the same branch diagonally across my frame die cut from the top left corner diagonal downwards towards the middle of the frame. Middle of the frame die cut, that's what I'm trying to say. All right, like so. All right, I don't need this anymore. I'm just going to get this out of the way. Now, I should actually close up my Early Espresso ink as well and get that out of the way. Check for ink, check, check, we're good. All right, in the branching out stamp set, there are 2 stamps that are clusters of the pine needles. So the one that is the farthest spaced apart is going to fit the edge of the branch. So those fit just like so, and then the words, Kate, the pine needles that are closer together, that's going to fit that second part of the branch. They're just going to fit nicely in there. So let me see, what color do I have? I've got garden green for my pine needles. All right, let's do this. Okay, so I've got the stamp set that's a little bit farther apart for the needles, and that's going to go on the end piece of our branch. I'm just lining it up. You can actually, these are pretty easy to stamp. If you just get your head right over your stamp, you can line these up quite nicely with the end of the branch, especially if you're using a dark color. Hello, Josie. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, Susan. Okay, I don't need this one anymore. I'm going to get it out of the way. There's going to be a lot of stamps to clean up after this tonight. Now I'm going to ink up the second stamp where the pine needles are a little bit closer together. Just going to scoot that around a little bit, and we're going to give these a stamp, just lining them up with the ends of the branch. Okay, same for this piece here. I like to turn it so I'm facing, it's facing up. I find it a little bit easier to line it up when I do that. All right. There we go. So far, so good. No smudges. Hello, Jack from Springbrook, Alberta. How's your weather? Is it chilly? I heard it's supposed to be chilly. Not that I'm paying attention to weather in Alberta. I'm totally paying attention to your weather in Alberta. I'm an Alberta girl. I'm always thinking about weather in Alberta. Now, excuse me. Hello, Kathy Kessler. I see you. There's a single pine needle stamp, and I'm going to use that to just fill in my branch. This is going to be a very busy little branch. I don't care. I'm doing it. Maybe it's too much for you, so you do you, but this one is going to have a lot happening. But it's all going to come together, so don't be worried. All right, so I'm just adding more pine needles to any part of that branch that's got a little nub, and it's really starting to fill in. There's a lot. one more here. And I just so happen to have one right here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Hello, Karen. How you doing, buddy? Oh, Jack says it's minus 14. Days are nice but slushy. All right, friend. It's definitely not anywhere near minus 14. On the island, you should move. You should move. You should be my neighbor. It would be like old times, you know? Not that we ever lived close enough, but we lived in the same city, Jack. We could do it again. You could be a transplant. Hello, Gay from Victoria. Thanks for tuning in. Victoria as in Vancouver Island, Victoria, as in not very far from me at all. Hello, Deb. Thank you. Okay. All right, here we go. Now, so I've got a very busy branch. That's okay. I like it that way. And now I've got these little berries. And I'm going to stamp these in cherry cobbler. I close up my ink pad, check my fingers for ink, all the things that I need to do. See, that's why. That's why. Hey, Cindy, thanks for tuning in. Okay, so I just got a little ink spot with cherry cobbler because I just haven't grown my ink collection big enough yet to have all the colors in full size. But I do love ink spots because, you know, you pick them up in a paper pumpkin, you grow your color collection, it's easy. So I will say I wouldn't say I'm the strongest at lining up these berries. So I'm just going for it. I don't know. I honestly haven't spent enough time to figure out if there's an exact way to put these things. So it's just going willy-nilly, all right? Just willy-nilly. Hello, Gail. Hello, Sue from Australia. Okay. Okay, that is so cool. I'm so glad you tuned in. We're not far from each other at all. I'm out in East Souk, and I actually work in this city, not too far from Mayfair Mall. Okay, so I've added some berries kind of in a wherever they're going to go pattern simply because I haven't quite figured it out if there's an exact way to line them up. If somebody has, put it in the comments because then I'm going to have to YouTube it and, you know, spend a little time and not be so lazy. Okay, so I do want to add a few berries to this branch, but I don't want to put the whole cluster in. At least I don't think I do. So I'm only going to ink up one little berry and then, oops, good thing that was the back of my paper. All right, well, we got that out of the way. All right, so I'm just going to add a few wherever. No real rhyme or reason. It's kind of wild and crazy. Sometimes if I put too many on though, I don't like it. So maybe, you know, maybe I better stop. One more. One more. Only because I messed up. I had to cover that one up. Okay, let's get that out of the way. I'm getting too crazy. Okay, you're in Colwood. Well, I know where Colwood is as well. We're all in the same greater Victoria area. All right, now I'm going to put this aside for a second. And this piece, I'm going to do a little bit of stamping for the sentiment right below this branch. Hello, Dickie from Oregon. Hello, Marie. Okay, so I will be using the sentiment that says, wishing you a day filled with many happy moments. So I really like the sentiments in this stamp set because I think you can use them for Christmas cards or not. I mean, they work, they're just versatile. So I'm going to do this in the cherry cobbler right below my pine needles. Nailed it. Usually I mess up these darker colors. It's a true story. Okay, I'm going to set this aside just for a moment. I want that ink to dry. Usually I find the red inks, they just need a little second. They need a hot minute. And if I start doing any blending, I feel like I might smudge those colors. So even though, Leanne, if you're still watching, I do fully embrace the nickname Smudgy, I'm going to try to avoid smudging today when I blend. All right, so this piece of basic white, 4 1/8 by 3 5/8. We're going to put that on the inside of the card, right underneath that 7 1/4 inch score line. I'm going to line it up. Now I do see that I've made a little bit of a mistake. I got a bit of smudge happening because I was like overzealous, I think, with my berries. But that's okay. That's okay. There's ways to cover up ink if you mess up, right? You can use some bling. You can do that. I hear there's an ink eraser called a sand eraser. Were we talking about this last time? Leanne says she's watching and waiting. Well, guess what, buddy? It's happened. It's happened. So, you know, now if I can avoid it for the rest of the card, we'll be doing good. Yeah, bingo is right. Now, let's put together the gift card holder, gift card holder. I'm just putting tear and tape on the edges of this, the end of our card, right above or right below, sorry, right below the 1 3/4 inch score line. So on the edges, but not here, right? Because we obviously don't want to glue our gift card holder shut unless you were putting something in your card and you intentionally wanted to lock it in. So somebody had to like get creative and dig your card apart to get the treasure inside. I mean, you could totally do that, right? If you wanted to stick some coins or something in there. But why would we want to tear this beautiful card? Anyway, at least I think it's beautiful when it comes together. You will see. All right, so I've just used tear and tape on the very edges. I put the tear and tape as close to the edge as I could get. You can use your multi-purpose liquid glue. That's no problem. You're just going to do a very thin bead on each edge. Do not put glue there. Fold it over. Before you commit, just try to make sure it's nice and flush with the edges of the card. Give it a little press, and there is your gift card. It's just so easy. So, all right. Now, I have no problems having a Big Mac now and then, friends. I am not too shy to admit it that we don't, you know, we're not proud of ourselves when we eat junk food, but we've hit the drive-thru at McDonald's once or twice, all right? This gift card, it's empty, all right? I use that, of course I use that, but I always have it on hand when I want to demonstrate how to use a gift card. So if you've been watching me for a while and you're thinking, wow, Kate, you know, you really have a ton of McDonald's gift cards, it's one that I promptly used. I just keep it, you know, for demonstration purposes. But trust me, I eat the Big Macs on occasion. I try not to, but I do. I'm not proud of it. Don't judge me. Hello, Christine. All right. Jeanette, hello. Hello. I hope I'm not missing any comments. Okay, so this piece of pattern paper, that is 4 1/8 by 1 5/8. We're just going to glue that down on the front of the gift card holder. Just like so. And they'll have just a very subtle border with the old olive. Now, if you prefer a little bit more border between your pattern paper and your cardstock, then you're just going to make your pattern paper a smidge smaller to like if you want it more border, cut your paper to 4 1 1/2. Yeah, for just, you know, cut it 1/8 smaller. Yeah, thank you, friends. No judgment. All right. And you know what else I really like about McDonald's? I really like their coffee. I think they make a really good coffee. So same thing, I'm going to add the pattern paper to the front of the card. So if we're hitting, chances are like anytime I go anywhere with my family, I get up, I'm prepared, get up early, I have a healthy breakfast, I pack a few things depending where we're going, maybe lunch or snacks or whatever, right? Whatever, all the things the dog needs while my family is not preparing. They're not doing anything, barely getting themselves ready. So I'm fine by the time we leave the house. I've already had breakfast, whatever that is. But 9 times out of 10, my husband and my son do not. So we hit the drive-through on the way to wherever we're going. And I'm always happy when we hit that McDonald's because they're getting their McMuffins, but I'm getting their coffee, and I like it. Hello, Wonderful Whimsicals by Mandy. All right, your Facebook name sounds pretty interesting. I'm going to have to check your page out. You know, that's what happens when you put such an intriguing name out there. I'm going to be like, what is Mandy up to? I have to know now. Now I have to know. Okay, so just a few more things to do. We're going to add some old olive linen thread. We're going to do a little bit of blending and wink of Stella, of course. And then there's a whole bunch of little pine cone die cuts that we're going to add to this card, and you're going to love it. All right, so old olive. I have got my blending brush. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. And I am going to add a little bit of green to my little focal piece here. So I'm just blending this green in. I am not too fancy. I'm going to leave a little bit of white in the middle, just because, for no other reason than I like it that way, but maybe you don't. So you guys do you, right? You do you. So that's it. Super quick and easy. All right, Wonderful Whimsical says she's a crazy junk journaler and a multimedia girl. Yeah, I am checking you out because I'm going to tell you a story, Mandy. I have envy when it comes to junk journals, and I watch people make junk journals, and I think, why am I not making junk journals? You know why? Because I'm intimidated. I don't know if I've got it in me to be that creative. I want to be. I'm going to check your page out. Maybe I'll be making junk journals in 2026. All right, sponge dauber, old olive ink, and now all I'm going to do is darken up the very edges of this frame die cut. So you could do it with the blending brush as well, but you have a little bit more control with the sponge dauber. So I'm just adding some very dark old olive to the edges and stopping at that little stitch line in the die cut. I literally had to think about what my brain was saying for a second. Mixed media. Well, you know what? Junk journals and mixed media. It sounds like you're my people, Mandy. I'm checking you out. All right, almost done. Just adding a little more color around the edge. And then, if you want, totally optional, but in the corners, you can add even more dark color. I kind of like it like that. Just wherever there's a little corner, I add a little bit more. Not too crazy, but a little crazy. Oh yeah, so easy. There we go. Looks like so. All right, moving on. I think that's it for ink. All right. Okay, Mandy says she was intimidated and she watched junk journalists for 6 months before she tried it. All right, I'm feeling optimistic, Mandy. I think you and I are going to be friends. Christine, are you working on a Christmas junk journal? You know, we're friends. We could be doing this together. We're not that far away from each other. All right, old olive linen thread. I am going to wrap this around the bottom of my sentiment a couple times and then attempt to tie a bow. Let's see if my fingers will behave. Okay, so I've just wrapped that around a couple times, and all I'm going to do now that I've got it cut is I'm taking my thumb and my finger where my nails are. You don't even have to do it with your nails. Just pinch the linen thread and drag it through your fingers. It's going to flatten it out a little bit, and it will behave better for you when you want to tie things into a bow. All right, Christine, exciting. By any chance, Christine, are you doing Tanya's sampler class on Saturday? Because I'm going. Whoops, I tied that wrong. Tanya is a good friend of mine. She's also my upline. She is the Canadian stamper, and she's doing, it's called the sampler class, but it's decor. It's going to be Christmas decor. So you get a frame, and we're going to make something Christmassy with beautiful patterned paper in the frame. And I normally don't. I don't hit up Tanya's craft classes because I'm a busy person. I'm doing my own craft classes, but I really had FOMO about making a little bit of Christmas decor, so I asked her if she had a spot for me, if I could come. And I didn't want to take a spot away from any other crafter because I just felt like maybe it's not fair for me to take a spot because I do my own classes, but she had room for me. So stay tuned. Karen's coming with me too, if you're still on the live. Gail, you're doing Tanya's class virtually? Well, I might see you if on the Zoom or whatever she's doing it on. All right, so in hindsight, my bow is blocking some of my words. So I'm just going to try to move this bow to the other side of my frame. So I'm gently flexing my paper. And I am going to pull this linen thread gently over to the other side, just by flexing the paper, right? I'm not stressing it. I'm not creasing it. It's just a really gentle flex. And look at that, like magic. I moved the bow to the other side. I'm a genius. All right, I'm excited too, Karen. I'm excited. I want to spend some time with you. Karen's had a tough go. All right, that's all I'm going to say. I won't tell your story, Karen, but she's had a tough go, and I am excited to spend some time with you. All right, now, my friend Janice gave me a box of glue dots that I said I was going to try with an open mind because I don't have good luck with glue dots. So this is for you, Janice. Putting a glue dot in here. I'm just going to tuck a glue dot behind this bow. I'm going to roll this between my fingers just so it's a little bit thinner and I can hide it. And all I want to do is add it behind that little bow that I tied. And then I'm going to, well, hang on. That didn't transfer yet. All right, now I got it. Then I'm just going to stick that bow down with the glue dot just to give it a little bit more stability. All right, there we go. Looking pretty cute. All right. Now, where are we at? Oh yes, we're almost done. Okay, ribbons on. Now what we're going to do is put this card together, add a little bit of Wink of Stella, and call it a night. So this larger frame is going to get glued down on the front of the card. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it right now. Getting out my little handy ruler. Wait, this isn't my handy ruler. I've got two rulers, but one that I like and the other one I don't like, and I don't know why I hang on to it. I'm just measuring to see how much space I have from the edge of the fold, or where the card flips up, to the bottom of my frame. I've got about 1 inch. So I know that I am going to make sure that I'm not putting any glue about 1 1/4 from the bottom of that frame, and the rest is fair game. Hello, Janice. Have you been watching the whole time? Because I just used a glue dot. So, that one's for you. Glue dot's for you, buddy. All right, so now I'm just adding glue, scribbling my glue on. Carissa, when you catch this on a replay, you know what I'm talking about. And I've got about 1 1/4 inch from the bottom of this frame that has no glue, because obviously I don't want to glue it. I don't want to glue the card together, right? So I'm going to add this. All right, about there. Just make sure my glue isn't popping through. And because I'm using Tombow, I've got a little bit of wiggle room to just adjust my paper and make sure I have it exactly where I want it. Easy peasy. All right, okay, Leanne, you're funny. You're funny. Janice, you're doing Tanya's virtual sampler class. Friends, I wish you were coming in person so we could all hang out. It would be fun. Okay, I better stop because, I shouldn't be inviting everyone who says they're coming virtually until I know if Tanya actually has room. Never mind. I'll see you virtually. Tanya, if you're catching this, I'm sorry, right? I don't know boundaries, buddy. I have very few boundaries. It's either a superpower or a problem. I don't know. Okay. Crazy on the dimensionals because that's how I like it. But, maybe you don't want to be wild and crazy like that. Now, I would suggest, before I forget, I'm just going to add a little bit of tear and tape to secure that linen thread in the back to keep that from sliding around. Can probably add a little bit more. Not saying it would happen, but you never know. It might happen. I don't know. Yes, Janice, we were talking junk journaling because I'm intimidated about it, but I'd like to learn how to do it. And Mandy's got a page because she's doing it. And then Christine's making a Christmas one. And then, the conversation just snowballed from there. All right. That one, this piece of tear and tape, I just made it a little bit too big. All right, so now I know my linen thread is going nowhere. I am going to pop off the backings of my dimensionals with the pokey end of the take your pick tool. You know what's handy about this is if you get them all in one shot, almost, okay, not that one. That one's misbehaving. Then, I can just pop this in the garbage and I have way less dimensionals all over my craft room floor. But trust me, I've got a lot. Okay, here we go. We're going to add this right in the middle of this frame. I'm going to stand up for this, make sure I get it. Because I find if I can't get my head right over what I'm doing, then I'm probably not going to align it very well. And that is one of my pet peeves. There we go. Okay, look at that. Isn't that pretty? But we're not even done. We got a wink of Stella and we are going to add pine cones and then we're done. I have a brand new wink of Stella and it is like messy, right? It's messy. The sample card I made last night was way too much Wink of Stella, and I had this genius idea to Wink of Stella my sentiment. And what that did was bled the colors of my sentiment. So it wasn't my smartest moment. Okay, so I have a very, very aggressive Wink of Stella. Is that normal for Wink of Stella? I don't know. I haven't had a new Wink of Stella in a long time. All right, Kathy, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Thank you, Susan. It gets better. It gets better, friends, because we're going to add some pine cones. So I just went ahead and I cut out a whole bunch in Early Espresso. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 feels like my lucky number today. All right. Where's my glue? Here we go. So I'm going to add a couple to the inside. And too bad that smudge was in the middle of nowhere because I could hide it with a pine cone. It's not happening. It'll be too weird if I put it out there. So I'm just going to add 2 pine cones to the inside of the card. And then we're going to add 5 to the outside. And then that card is done. I mean, you could add some gems or whatever you want if you're not done. If you want your card to be like really extra. You do you. Okay, there we go. There's the inside. Now to the outside. I'm going to cover up a little bit of my aggressive Stella berries, but it's going to be pretty, so don't worry. I won't mess this up. At least I don't think I will. All right, so I am going to, I want one of my pine cones to be just slightly off center, just above that white frame. And then the rest of the pine cones, I'm going to try to find little nubs of the branches where they're going to line up. All right, maybe, I was thinking when I was die cutting all these tiny little pine cones last night that, maybe 5 was too many for the front of the card, but then I'm like, no, it's good. It's good. You'll see. It looks good. All right. 3 to go. So I'm just adding a tiny little bit of glue to the back of these little pine cones. The glue, even though I'm just adding a little bit, it does kind of leak through a little bit where the die cut has cut the paper, but Tombow dries clear, so I'm not worried. I need to angle this one just a little bit better. That's better. Okay, one more, and then this card is done. I think that's it. Yeah. See what I mean? It's a long Monday. I don't even know when I'm finished. I'm finished. Now I'm finished. Okay, there we go. Here is our super simple gift card. You cannot get it any easier than this. You fold up the bottom of your card, you glue the edges down, you got a gift card holder. It's that easy, right? So fun. Perfect for Christmas, birthdays, Happy Meal, you name it. Here is the front of the card, and here is the sample I made last night. So same, but a little bit different. Like I had mentioned, I thought it was a really smart idea to wink Stella my sentiment, which caused the cherry cobbler to bleed. So I just had to go ahead and cut a piece of basic white. I added a little bit of green with the blending brush and the sponge dauber, and then I just glued it over top of my smudged sentiment. And actually, I kind of like it. So you'll have to decide for yourself. Do you like the sentiment stamped right on the layer, or do you like that extra piece of paper that's just adding a little bit more dimension to the card? Let me know. All right, recap. So last time we did the branching out card. Branching out or branching up? Yes, branching up. Branching out. This was the card we made. I can't remember if this was last Monday or not, but just so pretty and so easy, right? And not just for Christmas. So I love it. I'm going to flip the camera around. All right, friends, I've kept you 40 minutes. I hate to do that. Sorry, friends. I mean to try to cap it at half an hour, but perhaps with the branching out bundle, there's so much stamping and so many steps to making these really pretty images that maybe 30 minutes just is not enough. Yeah, Christine, I kind of like that extra layer too. It just adds a little bit more visual element. It's really easy. So sometimes mistakes help you make it even better, right? So, and I can say that because I make a lot of mistakes. So sometimes if you see a card that has a gazillion gems on it, I've been extra smudgy, right? Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. I will be back on Thursday with the final project in the Delicate Pines card class to go. It is going to be a 3D project. It's one of the most favorite 3D projects I make. You've probably seen me do it before, but I haven't done it in a while, so it'll be new for some of you, but you are going to need your scoring tool for the 3D project. There's a lot of scoring in this one, but I love it. It's not too hard, just a lot of scoring. So that's coming on Thursday. For those of you who have shopped with me, or if you're on my team, watch your emails because I will be sending out a Zoom link for our virtual card class at home, which is November 30th at 10 a.m. I'll be sending out a Zoom link and the measurements and supply lists So everybody you can prep your pieces and craft along if you're going to join that class live. Otherwise, I'll record it and it'll be available on a replay. Now, some of you who have shopped with me have earned the card kits, and everybody should have their card kits by now. And for those of you who are wondering what I talk about, it's part of my customer appreciation thing. If you shop with me, you're invited to this online card class. If your order is $60, I send you the kit so you don't have to prep your pieces. If your order is $100, I'll also send you gems. It goes on. Plus, it's my 50 and Fabulous Craft-A-Bration month. The month is almost over, so extra special perks because I'm getting old. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm so happy you're all here catching me live or on a replay. I appreciate all of you. For those of you who catch me live, your comments are fun. All right, you really make my night. I love chatting with you virtually. It's just really a good time. And wonderful whimsicals by Mandy. Stay tuned. I'm going to stalk your page and see what you're up to. All right, friends, bye for now. And I hope everybody has a really great week.